Hi everyone, my name is Victor Nunes and I am a solutions engineer at mParticle. I want to start today's session by quickly explaining how a typical mParticle customer data architecture is actually put in place. You can see that I break down this data architecture diagram in 4 different steps, and I'm going to just describe those at a high level. Step number 1 involves being able to ingest data from a lot of different sources, whether that's via SDK or server-to-server API. You see that those sources might include website, mobile inputs, connected TVs, data coming in from a backend system or a partner feed. The second step involves being able to do identity resolution and profile management in real time in order for customers to build the most enriched and customized profiles for their brand. The third step involves being able to do data planning and validation. But then, of course, there are things such as being able to manage privacy and consent, which is essential in today's world, adding a layer of processing and storage, and being able to do segmentation of the users that hit the system. The fourth step involves being able to interconnect the data points that are flowing into mParticle with a lot of different systems, which includes analytics, attribution tools, email and push, and personalization tools as well. And the way that we send data to the systems is either via events or by using our segmentation engine and audience builder to send those audience lists downstream. And in today's demo, we're going to be discussing how we enable customers to leverage real-time data for connectivity, personalization, analytics, and more, and why brands use mParticle to coordinate data flows between a best-of-breed stack. And in today's example, I'm going to be using 4 main integrations. We're going to talk about how you can leverage partners such as Braze and Iterable to send email campaigns and push, how you can do location tracking via the Radar SDK in an iOS app, and how we can do analytics and insights by sending data seamlessly from mParticle into Amplitude. Let's move into the demo. We're now in the mParticle UI, and the first screen that I want to take you through is the directory. This is a place where we showcase our now over 300 different services. Our teams are always continuously adding more integrations. And I just want to show you how quick and easy it is to enable a lot of these tools without any technical expertise and with a very intuitive UI. You just go into one of those tiles, click on it, add a few API keys and details, and you're good to go. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So I'm going to go here and search for Amplitude. And I'm going to hit setup. And in this case, we're going to select an events integration where we can send raw event data from mParticle into Amplitude. So you hit configure, and every integration is going to be a bit different based on their requirements, but most of them require the following fields. So you give your integration a configuration name, and I'm going to name it Amplitude Events. And the main reason for this is because in mParticle, you can have multiple instances of the same type of integration. So now the next step is to decide whether you're going to use this integration for development or production. You can use the same setting for both, or select development in this case, as I'm going to do in this example. Then you go ahead and paste your API key, which you can access from Amplitude's dashboard, and select what type of organization you're going to be working with. As soon as you do that, you hit save and open in connections, and that's really all it takes to add a new integration. Then just to give you another example, I want to go into Braze as well and hit setup, and you can see that we have multiple integration types with Braze. You can either receive data from Braze directly through our feed integration, which allows you to get data from the Braze current product. You can send data out to Braze in the form of events, but you can also sync audiences and user lists to Braze as well. And the process is very similar. So in this case, I'm going to show how you can set up an audience output. I'm going to hit configure. And you see that you get a couple different fields that you have to fill out. So as soon as you do that, you should be good to go. And the last example that I want to give you is radar. The main reason why I want to bring this one up is because even though the vast majority of our integrations are server to server, so they don't require any code, there are some particular integrations that in which this particular partner requires that their SDK is embedded in your client-side application. So whether on your website or on your iOS or Android app. And this is the case with Radar because they are tracking location. So they need an actual device to be able to perform some of those specific actions. But mParticle has the concept of kits where you can actually implement the Radar SDK through a very simple process and in a codeless way. And that's exactly what I've done. I've included the Radar SDK into our iOS app that we're going to use later in the demo. And I'm going to give you some more details in just a little bit. So, okay, now we're going to jump into the connection screen. And for the purposes of this demo, I have already set all of this up. These different integrations are already live. And I just want to show you how in the connection screen, you can actually do traffic control between all your available inputs. And you see here that I have set up already our Braze feed, our Radar location feed, Iterable, Sendesk. And I'm also getting data from a couple different platforms such as iOS, Android, and web. And I can select a particular input like iOS. And you can see that I have iOS connected to 11 different outputs, which you can see down here. And I also want to show you some of the functionality that you get out of the box with mParticle that would normally require for a non-technical person to reach out to product or engineering to set something like this up. And these workflows can take a lot of time. So I'm going to actually select the data flow from iOS into Amplitude. And I want to set up a simple set of rules, which is what we call forwarding rules. And I want to do an example based on compliance. So imagine you're tracking consent either through GDPR or CCPA. So in here, I'm showing you how you can actually set up a rule that says, I only want to forward data from iOS into Amplitude for the users that have given me consent under GDPR or CCPA for the purposes of analytics. All you gotta do is hit save, and this specific rule is enabled, and now only those users will flow into Amplitude. You can do the same thing for different attributes that become available in the system, and you can also do it through identities or attribution metrics. And really, that's all it takes. So I just shown you, the data flow between iOS and Amplitude. I'm also forwarding data from, Radar directly into Braze and Iterable, which I'm going to showcase in just a little bit. But I hope that helped you understand, how easy these flows and data architecture setups become while using a core CDP like mParticle. Now that I'm showing you how to interconnect and enable all these different integrations in mParticle, I want to take you to some of the use cases that we're going to be seeing in today's demo. And for that, I'm going to move into the live stream. And this screen shows real-time data being ingested into the system. And you will see some events coming in from different sources. So if I can click on inputs here, you see that we have enabled Android, iOS, tvOS, and web as platform SDKs. We're also getting data from a ton of different feeds in different places. And you can see here that we're receiving events from Iterable, from POS system, from web and iOS. And if I expand on some of these events, if I look at the POS event right here and I expand it, you can see that the customer performed the purchase on a chicken sandwich. The brand is Chick-fil-A, and you can see different details like the price, any attributes that this particular purchase has, etc. So all of these data is coming in real time from, say, a point of sale transaction. And then if we look down, you can also see that customers are also browsing the menu, and they're performing other commerce events such as add to cart. In this case, it's a burger. And you see all the different details such as the purchase method was mobile, the type was pickup. So this, you'll quickly realize that in today's use case, we're going to be targeting the QSR vertical. So some of the regular events that quick service restaurants will send into a platform like mParticle, and that's going to enable a lot of the use cases that we're going to be showcasing. But this screen not only shows you the events coming in, but we can also switch the message direction to outbound. And you can see that a lot of these events, we're also passing them down to platforms like Facebook and Amplitude, Braze, and others. If I click on outputs here, you see all the different ones that I've set up. And that is going to be the baseline for a lot of the real-time use cases that I'm going to be showcasing in just a bit. So now that you've seen data coming in from all these disparate systems, I want to show you something that mParticle is really strong at, and it's doing identity resolution. So we have a framework called ID Sync that allows you to, collect all these separate data points and put them together in the most cohesive customer profile so that brands can use it to, personalize the experience and just be able to target the users at the right time. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to click on the badge that came from POS and look at this customer. And you see all the details about the actual user. And I'm going to go ahead and select that email address and go into activity, user activity. I'm going to paste it in. And I'm going to select email address as my profile field. I'm going to hit search. And right away, you see the mParticle profile. There's a lot of details that I want to just quickly highlight. The first one is the mParticle ID. That is the universal GUID that we create for each profile in the system, and that stitches all these other identities together. So let's say you collect the customer ID from a particular input, but email in multiple inputs. Say you're also collecting a hash credit card via that POS system. So the mParticle ID is responsible for stitching everything together and giving you that complete view of the profile. And to make my point, this right here, workspace usage, it shows the different places that we've seen the data for this particular user. So we've seen the user on iOS, but also on web. And we've seen information flowing into the system from Braze, Iterable, location tool, in this case radar, and also point of sale. The mParticle SDKs collect device IDs. You can also see all the different user attributes, such as age, city, country, address, mobile phone number, and a lot of different attributes that might be important to specific brands, such as if the user has an abandoned cart, if they have authorization on every purchase, whether they're an Apple Pay user, if they have any allergies, their birthday. You can also create calculated attributes in mParticle, such as their total purchase count over the past 7 days. You can capture a lot of different details depending on what's important to the brand, and those will be highlighted as user attributes in the platform. You can also see to which audience memberships they belong based on the ones that are created in the mParticle UI, and also the type of consent that the user has given. And this is really important because as we put together this profile, this is the data that we're going to be sending out to different partners. So we're going to be sending it out to Amplitude. We're going to use this profile next to create audiences to target users that are likely to purchase. And that is the next step that I'm going to show you just now. So we're now in the audience section of the UI. And I have already created a likely to purchase audience, but I want to create it from scratch so that you can see what the process looks like. I'm going to create a new audience. I'm going to give it a name. In this case, I'm going to do likely to purchase new to create some distinction of the name. I'm going to select data from iOS, Braze, and POS system. I'm going to hit create. Now you can see this takes us directly into the audience builder. And any particular data point that comes into mParticle, regardless of the source, it's going to become available for segmentation here. The first criteria I'm going to select is an event. So I want to look for iOS users that have, let's say, browse the menu, and I have done that. I can add recency and frequency more than 3 times over the past 7 days, or let's say 14 days. I want to check for those users, but I'm going to add Boolean logic and say, or users that have performed a e-commerce event for some type of shopping. And in this case, I want to check for users that have added a product to cart. And I can select, let's say I want to check for somebody that have added a product to cart where the total amount of what they added is greater than, say, $7. And I want to make sure they've done that more than 0 times over the past 14 days. So now I'm looking for users that have either browsed the menu or added something to cart, but I also want to exclude users because I'm trying to capture those that are likely to purchase. I want to exclude users that have actually performed a purchase recently. So I'm going to select POS. I want to still stick with iOS for now, and I'm going to do product level, but in this case, I'm going to select purchase, and I want to say, greater than 0 of these events within the past 14 days. Boom. And just like that, I've created my audience. Of course, I wanted to be more specific and add different targets and make my audience based on an age range or a location. I can absolutely do that by just going here and selecting users instead and selecting user attributes. For example, I can say age, and I can say, age is greater than, say, 20 years old. That's just a quick example, but that gives you an idea that any user attributes that become available for these users are also going to show up here. So this is how you will create an audience, and you can do things like A/B testing, like in order to send that audience to different places, but you can also just go ahead and connect it. So what I'm going to do is just going to switch back really quickly, but I'm going to select the audience that is already built and show you how I can connect it, how it's already being connected to both Iterable and Braze, and to show you just how easy it is. Let's say I want to connect that audience to another tool like Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I can just go here, select what subscriber key I'm going to use for the audience, and paste in my extension key, which I can collect from Salesforce, and just hit that connection. And that's really all it takes for the audience to be live in Salesforce. But in this case, the use cases that we're looking at are for Braze and Iterable. So quickly, I'm going to jump into the Braze UI and show you how I'm leveraging that audience right here. So what I've done is I've created a campaign that is going to target users who are likely to purchase based on the audience that I sync via mParticle, but that are also currently near a particular restaurant. So if somebody's within 350 meters of one of the few restaurants that I have geofenced through Radar, and they meet the criteria for a likely to purchase audience, they're going to receive both a push notification and a campaign with a coupon on their email. And how I created this was using their Canvas product. So I go here and I can select, what are the entry rules? So it says, send Canvas immediately after trigger criteria is met, and the trigger criteria is somebody passing nearby a restaurant. The audience that we're going to target is likely to purchase, which was sent from mParticle. And this is what the process is going to look like. I didn't add any delay, but you can, add, any set of time that you want it to pass before the user receives the campaign. I'm selecting a particular audience likely to purchase in this case, and I've crafted, a very simple message that is going to be sent via email and via push. So that's what the process looks like. And if I go to edit my canvas, you can see that this is where we set it up. You give it a name, you check action base, and in this case, I want to make sure that a custom event is performed before we trigger the campaign. And I want to show you really quickly that I'm selecting user.energy offense, which is the event that we're going to get from Radar. But if I click here, all the events that are flowing from mParticle, things like, abandoned cart, account created, open, add viewed, add to cart, every single event that is coming from mParticle becomes available here to be used as a trigger. The next step is selecting the entry audience, which I am capturing that likely to purchase segment that I sync through mParticle. You set up some send settings, and then you actually build your canvas in which you're going to select your message. And this is kind of like what the email body looks like for that campaign. Next, I also want to go into iterable to show you that I've done the exact same thing. I've named it hyper-localized campaign. I've used the same trigger, and you can see here what the campaign actually looks like, which we're going to be receiving in the user's email. Now that I've shown you what the process looks like to create these campaigns in Braze, and I've done the same in iterable, I want to actually take you to Radar's UI and show you the geofence that we're going to be targeting for that location change. And that is going to serve as a trigger for those campaigns. So what I've done is that I've created a geofence, a 500-meter geofence around a Chick-fil-A that is actually very close to the mParticle New York office. And I'm a big fan of Chick-fil-A, which is why I've chosen that as the example. So I'm going to go and open that geofence to show it to you. The geofence is at Chick-fil-A on 22nd and 6th in New York City. And I've made it a 500-meter radius. So if somebody enters the vicinity of that geofence by 500 meters, then Radar is going to trigger that particular event. User.energy offense is going to come into mParticle, which is going to trigger the rest of the workflow automatically. So here's the latitude and longitude that I'm going to be using to simulate the location change on iOS. So let's go back into Livestream and show you how this looks like in action. So I'm going to pull up my iOS app, and I'm going to do a couple of actions. This is a very simple iOS app that I have here. And I'm going to log in, and I'm going to start sending a couple of events. So you see a commerce event login, a subscribed event. I can even play a video, which is being tracked by mParticle's Media SDK. And you see that the different actions that I take also are being sent, like media pause and session summary. And whenever I started a media session, those are just some of the different data points that you can track through mParticle. But let's focus on location. So what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to switch to maps, and I'm going to show you that I am currently sitting near Apple campus in California. That's the location that I'm currently in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into features, location, and I'm going to set up a custom location. And here's the latitude and longitude that I have for that Chick-fil-A store. So I'm going to hit OK. You see how the location actually moved to 22nd and 6th. So if I go back and switch into my iOS app, that location change triggered. You can see a lot of events happening really quickly. So you see iterable sending the email. You see Braze actually performing that canvas entry. And if I actually go back and foreground the app, you can also see the push notification coming through from Braze as well. So you see all of these different things happen in real time. And now I'm actually going to go back to the UI. You see that the email has actually been delivered by both Braze and iOS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into Gmail, and I want to highlight that the last event that we've received is that the email was just delivered. But I want to show you how, as users interact and open emails, those events also come through from these different platforms. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to open this up. You see that I've received a email from Chick-fil-A, and here's the actual content with my coupon. If I go back into Livestream, you see that Iterable just sent me the event right away that the email was open. And it includes all the different criteria for the campaign. You see hyper-localized campaign, the user, and all of the relevant information there. So I'm going to go back and open the Braze campaign. So I go here. Here's what the Braze campaign looks like. And I'm going to go back into Livestream now. You see that the campaign was delivered 1 minute ago. Same for Iterable, 1 minute ago. Then I go to Livestream, and you can see that Braze also captured that email open event. So this shows you the real-time interconnectivity that mParticle enables. And I've shown you what the process looks like from end to end. So I hope that was helpful to see. And just before we leave today's demo, I also want to show you how we can leverage all of the information and all the data points that are flowing through mParticle in a tool like Amplitude to create, to look at different analytics and insights. So just before we get into the Amplitude UI, I want to give you a quick reminder that all of those events that you see in the screen that are being processed in real time through mParticle are also flowing outbound to Amplitude as well. So let's go into user activity in Amplitude. And I want you to take a look at this particular user ID, which we've seen a lot of these events that have been received just about a minute ago. So I'm going to click on that, and I want to show you that the entirety of the customer profile that we processed in mParticle has been passed into here. So you can see things like I have info about the allergies for this user, their dietary preference, their email, first name, last name, even the geofences that they've stepped into, and the latitude and longitude of those. All the information that mParticle put together and aggregated from different sources, everything is now here in Amplitude in real time and can be used for segmentation and to creating type of analysis or insights. A good example of that is using Amplitude Recommend to leverage some of their ML and AI capabilities. But in order to conclude the demo, the last thing I want to show you is how we can create a simple funnel report analysis here in their UI based on the use case that we just built over the past few minutes. So the first event that I'm going to select to create this funnel analysis report is users that had a session. And I'm going to do it over the past 7 days. So you see that 64 different users have had a session recently. So the next event that I'm going to look at is users that had actually browsed the menu once they've interacted with the app. You see there's a little bit of a drop off here, 20.3% dropped off from the previous step. So that's a pretty high conversion rate just yet. But then the next thing we're going to look at is users that actually have been offered a coupon based on the campaign that we produce. So out of those 51 users, 12 meet the criteria for the coupon, and which is 23.5% of the users in the previous step. And lastly, I want to see how many of those have actually gone on and performed a purchase event. I'm going to go here, and you see that one of those users followed through the entire funnel. But of course, I can see a lot more metrics here, like what are the frequency of those actual events and the actual funnel. I can actually produce a lot of different insights here in Amplitude to understand the data and possibly change some of the steps there to increase my conversion rates. But you get the idea. This is the final part of the demo, and I hope that it was insightful for you. Again, my name is Victor Nunes. You can always contact us if you have any questions or you want to try mParticle for your business. Thank you so much. Have a great day.